Okay, so I am going to pick up on the multiplying radicals. I'm sorry this is so pieced together. Hopefully I can get this figured out and get it done so we can have one video for each unit. But when we multiply radicals, we're going to follow the same rules as we did with polynomial. So we can use FOIL or just distributive property if FOIL isn't appropriate. But what you need to remember when you multiply radicals is that the outsides are multiplied to the outsides, which are like the coefficients, if you want to call them that. And then the insides are multiplied to the insides. And then if we can simplify, we will. So, number 15, if we start here, first thing we need to do is distribute. So, I need to multiply 2 square root of 3 to the square root of 6. Which would be 2 square root of 18. And then I need to multiply 2 square root of 3 to the negative 3 square root of 8, which would be negative 6 square root of 24. So you can see I multiplied the outsides to the outsides and the insides to the insides. And then what we're going to do now is look to see if we can simplify, which we can. So this one we could break down into 9 times 2. So the square root of 9 would be 3. So this would be 6 square root of 2, because we would write that as a 3. And then 24 we could break down to be 4 times 6. Square root of 4 is 2, so this would be 12 square root of 6, and those are not like square roots, so we are done. Alright, the next problem is a FOIL type problem because we do have like a binomial multiplied to a binomial. So what I'm going to do here is first, so multiply those two together, which would be 4 square root of 6. And then I'm going to multiply the outsides together, which would be negative 4 square root 18. Then I'm going to do the insides together, which would be a positive 2 square root of 12. And then I'm going to multiply the last ones together, and that would be negative 2 square root of 36. So now I'm going to see if I can simplify. And on the first one, 4 square root of 6, we can't break that down into anything better, so that stays as is. For 18, we could do 9 and 2. Square root of 9 becomes 3, so this would be negative 12 square root of 2. Alright, on this one, we could rewrite 12 as 4 times 3. The square root of 4 is 2. So this would be 4 square root of 3. And then here the square root of 36 is 6. So that's going to be a minus 12. And none of these are like square roots, so that's our answer. Alright, looking at dividing. Dividing, once again, we're going to divide the insides with the insides and the outsides with the outsides if we can. And the one rule with dividing that is different is that our denominator cannot be a square root. So we must have a rational denominator. So when we look at this problem, the 4 and the 3 cannot be simplified. When I look at the square roots, square root of 2 and square root of 5 cannot be simplified. So I would say that this one is done, except that we have to get rid of the square root of 5 in the denominator. So just like the dimensional analysis, we're allowed to multiply this by a fraction that's equal to 1. And hopefully by now you remember that we can get rid of a square root by multiplying by itself. Because when you square a square root, you get the number you started with. So I can multiply this by square root of 5, but I also need to multiply this by square root of 5, and that right there has a value of 1, so I can multiply it without any trouble. So this will give us 4 square root of 10 over 3 square root of 25, if you want to say that. And then 4 square root of 10 cannot be simplified. But this is a 5, which means our denominator is 15. And then I would just check to make sure that this fraction right here, 4 over 15, cannot be reduced or simplified. And since it can't, that's our answer. All right, last one, and then we're done. So 5 plus the square root of 2. If we multiply this by the square root of 2, it will get rid of this one, but it will cause a square root over here. So we use what is known as the conjugate, which is just like the difference of squares. When we FOIL difference of squares, since one of them's positive and one of them's negative, the middle terms cancel each other out. But again, whatever we do to the bottom, we have to also do to the top. Because again, we're multiplying by a 1 right here, so we're allowed to do that. So on the top, we need to distribute. So 5 square root of 5 minus square root of 10. And I got that from there and there. And then for the denominator, if we FOIL this, we would get 25. On the outside, we'll get negative 5 square root of 2. Inside, we would get positive 5 square root of 2. And those two cancel each other out completely. And then if we multiply the last ones together, we would get minus 2. So now our simplified answer is 5 square root of 5 minus the square root of 10 over 23. And we can't do any reducing, any simplifying, so we are done. All right, that takes care of Unit 1, finally. Thank you for your patience. I really do appreciate it because I know the videos were choppy.